Okay, I think, all right. So now we'll move into RealWorks. And then the X7, so now a little bit of X7. Again, so many tools, so we're not going to try to cover everything, but that's just not possible. Okay. All right, so X7 RealWorks. Okay, so we're gonna try to get through the long short list here. RealWorks and point clouds. So just some slides of just the important things when you work in RealWorks, what to do. The preferences. So we'll start with the getting started. Then we'll have the registration mode. That's the critical stage of putting the point clouds together. And then moving into the production mode, and then show an example of a shared project and using a production tool, and then just some simple examples of modeling. All right, so important preferences. So every time you open RealWorks, you make your preferences. Very important. Always double check your preferences, as you never know what someone has done instead on your computer. So in the preferences, this is where you got your units, coordinate systems, your units, decimal precisions, your highlight colors, displays. Then you have your navigation, your mouse button, what you want to do with your mouse, so you can change that. And then you have the magnifier mode, the zoom in functionality of how size that zoom in is on. So this just always make sure when you open RealWorks, you're starting out, just make sure your preferences, those are always where you want them to be, because that coordinate system XYZ and the northing easting, that can cause some headaches once in a while when you have a northing easting file and it's in X, Y, and Z. All right, so that's just one little spot. Important preferences. Next one. So now this is importing files as well. So RealWorks supports a bunch of third-party as well. So this is where it begins as well. When you start file, import, open, you got your top 5. Those are all Trimble formats. And then you got your all other different files associated with the third party. And then down below we have the Trimble TDX file. So that's where that's hidden. So there's your list of what files we can open that you can work with point cloud data and objects and etc. from other applications as well. So now just back focusing on the point cloud transfer with an X7, same thing from perspective, refine, colorize, export project, same structure. You got your TDX, your JPEG, and TDF. And then what you'll see in RealWorks is you'll open it up and then you'll have the TDX processing menu. So you have some more control here of you can sample it. So if you don't want all the points, you can sample it down just a little bit, or you can spatial sample it right off the bat. And then if you want a preview scan, you can have a preview scan, and then you have the filtering options, filtering by range. And then if you want to export the panorama images as a JPEG file, you enable that, and then you'll get a panorama image of each station once the export is complete. And then during the processing, you'll see the TZF conversion. The little clock up top starts, and it chunks through in RealWorks. And then when it's complete, it'll say completed in 6 minutes for the Yankee Street data set to process. All right, so now let's just look at again the features that you used in the field and how they associate into RealWorks. All right, so we have the X7 annotation and the TRW annotation. So now here's what we have in the RealWorks. So we create an annotation in the field, and also in the note portion of the annotation in perspective, there's a little description area, storm sewer measure down. So if you pop the manlage, you can measure down, put that information. So now you have the measure downs in an annotation. So you have just a little picture of what the manhole, the access cover, and the measure down information. So that's one possibility. So X7 annotation in Trimble RealWorks, it's an annotation. So those are seen also in the workspace. You'll have a tab called Annotations. And then from there, you can turn on and off the little pin, which you see on the right-hand side up top. You click on the pin and your annotation opens up. Then a precision point in RealWorks is known as a target annotation. So then in workspace annotations, and then we have a folder called target annotations. And then as we see here, we have that 5000 BW, and then there's our annotation picture with the pin and a little description of the aluminum cap. So that's how the precision point relates to Trimble RealWorks. Okay, so now there's two different modes in RealWorks. So it's registration and production. Registration is always your first stop when importing any type of point cloud data. So the registration, that's where we put the point clouds together and etc. And then if we want to generate something, a surface or something, that's what production mode does. So there's two options, registration mode and production mode. But when we're importing data, we always begin in the registration mode. All right, so we're just gonna go through some real quick screen captures here of talking about registration. So we're in the registration mode. Options to align the clouds or register, put them together. There's several different options in RealWorks. TBC has limited options. So in RealWorks, we have the first one on the left is scan-based registration. So that is plain registration or cloud-based registration. So that's also known as pairwise in RealWorks. So those are two options where you're taking just scan-based. And the next one is called target-based registration. So now this is it kind of goes can work with scan based as well. So this is where we're using targets, spheres, black and whites, or actually identifying common features. You did 3 scans, and there's this a bolt in the wall that you can see clearly. You can create targets from the common objects from different scans. And then we have the last one is the survey workflow. So this is where we use spheres or a black and white, and we are doing a instrument setup, backsite, foresight, moving ahead, using an example would be the TX8 and spheres. We had a backsite sphere, and then with the TX8, it has the height measure up. So you measure up the height, you measure up the targets, and you perform a traverse using your scanner, and that would be survey workflow. And then once you have the clouds together, there's a tool, the registration visual check, which then you can start looking at items to verify the registration is nice and put together very well. So scan, and just again, scan-based registration, plain registration, cloud to cloud. There's just a little description of those two using planes, and then and it tells you what to do, and start the tool. Target-based registration, so spheres, black and white, survey workflow, traversing with the scanner. All right, so in this one, just go through the registration demonstration with the X7 again. So in this case, we're going to remove the registration. So what we have to do, so it gets a little more complicated in RealWorks since we have targets and that as well. So we have to clear out. So when we brought it in from the X7 is you have a registration set created from perspective. So we have to move all those stations out of that folder and then perform the registration. So once we move all those stations from the registration folder into Project Yankee, the registration has now been broken. And then what we have to do also, since we use targets, it brings in and it sees the targets. We have to unmatch the targets, and we need to delete those targets that were created in perspective. And the next one we'll perform cloud-to-cloud registration, bringing one cloud together. And then we can look at the registration visual check. And then we need to create targets. So now we need to create targets from what we scanned in the field. And then we follow up with, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one in cloud to cloud. We refine it. And then we step into create the targets, followed by target-based registration. And then we're going to match the targets to our topo stations. And the topo stations are the ground coordinate points that we established with the SX12. Okay, switching screens. Boop. Boop. RealWorks. Okay. All right, RealWorks up and running. All right, so here we are in RealWorks. And so the same thing is we've registered the first 8 together. And now we need to be in registration mode. And we head to registration. Then we can select our project. Because one thing about RealWorks is when the icons are grayed out, that means you have something selected that doesn't activate the tools. So here's an example here. We select the project and then the registration icons become active. So we'll select the project. We'll go into cloud-based registration. Then also same thing, very similar to, well, I should say almost identical to Business Center. So here is our reference cloud, which is 9, which we don't want to do. We want to switch that. So we want to use the registered group, which is right here, registered. And then we want to have scan station number 9 being the moving station. So again, then we have our buttons here, automatic, and then we can remove our picky points, and we can do some interactive pan tools here. So again, same scenario is automatic. It's not going to work very well. And then we gotta find our 3 points. And then it pops up with an error, 4,000, 33% overlap. And so as we see, we're getting similar results from all 3 programs. Oh, come on. And our results haven't changed much. And we proceed forward here into our registration. Bing. Okay, so now we have our 3 points, our check. So then we have the tool here. We can check this registration. We can open the visual check. And this one where we can't change the colors, where things are blending. So now we just define the slice, how we want to look at it. And we'll just go look at, we'll define the slice here. And then we can define, so we can define the slice of that. And we can look at the pole. And as we see, the color may not, let's see, so we can make the points a little larger, but as we see, our power pole, our light pole is all a one surface. So you go through here, and then you can also change the step, isolate an area, and use a limit box. So this is a tool to check your registration as you go. And then once we have that, we have options: don't create group, add to reference, merge to reference. So if we merge, it creates one object, but in this case, we'll add to the reference, which will just put it into the registered folder. All right, so we've completed the registration. So that would be, we did cloud to cloud on that one. And then we'll go up here and we'll select our register groups, and then we'll refine, and we'll select our reference station as 5 again, and we start the refinement process. And there we have our refinement report, overall cloud. Very similar results, cloud to cloud error, 4 thousandths in our confidence report. So we're pretty much hitting the same results from Perspective, Business Center, and Trimble RealWorks. And then if we want, we can save this report off, and then we can access that at a later date, and we'll close that. So now we have our registered scans. They've been refined. So then we can actually come in here too if we wanted to, and just again look at, just take a peek along the base of the power pole. Let's see if we just look at the color in the true color format. And there is our scan. So now georeferencing portion. So here is our topo scans right here. Those are our control points. Those are the ones on the ground. And then we have, so if we, and then in RealWorks, we have tabs in the workspace. So that's where the annotations are. These where all the images are. And then we have our targets, our unmatched targets. So right here, we've already generated, we've created 3 of them. And then we need to generate a 4th target. And so this is where we also want to be very cautious, use the X7 best practices. So if we are going to use flat targets, maximum distance 10 to 15 meters from the X7. So keep the targets very short, because in end result, if you're going into target-based registration, we need to get RealWorks to generate a value, create a target from this, from the black and white. So we'll go here, and then right up here we have the target analyzer tool. This is what we create targets with. So we're in scan 1, we're looking at the target, and see now we have a nice scan of the target. So this is where be cautious of pushing the distance, because if whatever reason you end up back in RealWorks, we definitely want to, and if we need to register with targets, we have a good spot. So then we'll go into the extraction mode, and then the target creator opens. We'll change that to black and white, and then we'll just click on the middle of that and go through there, and now we have 2,000 points, standard deviation values of what it's generated in the target. And then now we'll create the target, And then this will be, and this is 5. Oops. And then we generate 5,000. Call it target. And now we enter the height, 5.0. Same thing what we did in perspective. We click OK, and then it's created the target information right there. Now we can close the tool and apply. And now there is our target with the height down to the control mark. And as we see, that's down in the range box there. All right, so to georeference now, so we have our other target. So if we go to our unmatched targets, so now we can, yeah, so there's our other target there. And oh, I called that TRW. Okay. All right, so now, so from the target, so there's a few ways to do this, but right here we can actually select a target and say select match with, and we just want to match it with our ground coordinate, the coordinates in the box, and 5001, and then we match with this 5002. And then we match with 5003. We select OK. We can select our project. So now we can just use target-based registration. And then we hit check. And we've already matched it. And overall residual is 100. So for our targets, we have about 100th, very similar to the Business Center results. And we review that list, distances, the northing eastings. And once we're happy with that, we'll apply and close. And now we've registered, georeferenced the project using target-based registration. So now we're ready to move into the production mode. And we go back to scans. And then we can switch into production mode. And then in production mode right here is now here is our registered point cloud. Okay, so now we're going to switch back to the PowerPoint for a moment. And then we're going to stop. And back here. Bing. All right. All right, so now we're into RealWorks in the production mode. And then just here's all the tools. So just let it show that. All right, so in the point cloud production mode, we have in the edit command, we got segmentation, sampling, auto classifies. Surfaces, we got mesh, the surfaces, create a mesh. We got cutting plane, contouring, profile, cross-sectioning, volume computations. In the drawing section, polyline, cutting plane, we have the feature set. So that would be doing line work, creating codes. Then we have inspection. We got other inspection tools. Then we have the wall verticality, floor inspection. Then we have modeling, so we can start modeling objects. So we have some automated stuff, and there's also manual operation. So as we see, a lot of things in RealWorks. So there we have all the tools. Just some common tools that are used frequently that you'll use all the time. Segmentation, removing unwanted points. So the segmentation tool is a standalone tool, which you'll create stuff if you need to create some type of filter out curb and gutter or whatever, stairwell, and create that as an object. But also it works inside of tools. So you'll have a tool inside of a tool, which we'll see shortly. So you can, but this tool is pretty much probably besides registration commands, the segmentation tool you use on a regular basis. Also the sampling. Sampling is a big tool as well, so it reduces your point cloud size. And then also Helps your computer out when you have a reduced point cloud. You're working on a road or a wall face. Other than that, and you can reduce the size, graphics cards, all that stuff likes that performance. And then we have also 8 different sampling options. Ground extraction indoor, floor indoor, ground, spatial random. So we have different many different options. And then the auto classify tools, just to let you know, they're in there. We just don't have a data set that we're really going to focus on the auto classify. But auto classify, you have the outdoor option, which gives you ground, building, poles and signs, power lines, and high vegetation. Indoor, you got floor, graded floor, ceilings, and walls. So let you know those tools are available. But just use caution with these. So if you have a project, you definitely want to do some segmentation, kind of narrow down your area of focus, because if you have a large project or a large scan set, 20, 30 sets, and you hit auto classify, it may take quite some time, and then you could reduce that time by getting rid of a lot of stuff. Like if you don't want power poles, or you just have a lot of stuff in there, vegetation, tree, stuff like that, reduce it down with just a quick segmentation, and then run your auto classify. Okay, there we have it. All right, so this one, this is a demonstration. We're gonna do just a profile and cross section. I wanted to find a tool that uses multiple tools just to demonstrate that tool within a tool. So going through here, and we're just going to look at the profile cross section tool, because that allows us to open up the segmentation tool, the sampling tool, the 2D easy line tool, and then also just drawing a polyline as well. So that's what we'll do here. So I'll switch screens one more time. And then we're going to go share back to RealWorks. All right, back to RealWorks. And then, so we're just going to do just a little quick section here. So we're just going to work on this little concrete, the little island. And we're going to go into our drawing tool. And as you see, a lot of things are not open yet, available. So what we're going to do is just, first thing is nothing selected. So we'll just click on the point cloud, and then the light bulb comes on. So we could turn that off, on, select, and now we see the box that's indicating it's selected. And it will just go right into, in this case, we will do just the straight up segmentation, not within a tool. And then we'll just snip out the island here, and we'll hit the keep in button, and then we'll spin it up, and then we'll just come across. And we keep that out, and then we'll create the object. So now we have this object here, and we always like to be organized, and we'll just call this, give it a properties and give it a name, island. Okay, so here's an example where we had something way up top. So we'll run the segmentation tool one more time, a good example to, there we go. And then we'll keep it in, and we'll create that and close. So this is where we ran segmentation on the island. So now we have this object. Now it's the remaining items of what we segmented out. So here now we can get rid of that one, right click, options. Then we can go back here to the island. So there is our cloud. And now we're going to work on the island, and we're just going to create a polyline. So we're going to create a polyline. So this is the polyline drawing tool. And so right now we're drawing in 3 dimensions. So we click on points and the whole bit. We have this 3D mode, which then we can define a canvas or a plane that we're going to draw in. But in this case, we just want to draw just a quick 3-dimensional polyline. And what we're doing is we're drawing a polyline, we're generating a path for the tool we're going to oops. Oh, come on. And then also in Trimble RealWorks, in our picking parameters, we do also have the equivalents of the smart picking tools and Business Center as well. RealWorks, you can pick the highest cloud point, lowest cloud point. We have face of curb, gutter, road mark, and fitted plane as well. So those where those items reside. Okay, so now we draw on our line, then we just use our tools to end the line. Then we'll create the object. So there we have just a little path along the sort of just looking at my picking. There we have it. So a little crooked, but we'll know what we're doing. So then we'll just call this center line. All right, so now we have our island, and now we're going to go into this profile and cross-section tool. So now here is where we can now use the segmentation tool. So now a tool within a tool, and then we can click on that, and that will open the segmentation tool. And if we wanted to clean this up just a little bit, we'll just chop out that little corner. And then we can delete that, and then we can close that. So that's the segmentation tool within a tool. So when we run the segmentation tool outside, that's where we're creating objects. So we're adding objects to the project. So this cloud here. Then we also have the sampling tool. So we can actually, and now here are all the options. So you got random, spatial, scan-based, intensity-based, discontinuity-based sampling, ground, topo, and then topography. So we can we'll select ground, and again, we saw this, and then we'll click that, and then we'll go to grayscale. And in this case, if we have any outliers here, but it's pretty tight, so we really don't have any ground outliers, but we can now just keep the ground in there. We've sampled it in the tool, and then we have that. So there's a little example of sampling or segmentation and sampling within the tool. So we're going to just do a profile cross section. So we'll select from path. So then, that tool. And there's our path, the start and end. And then these lines are showing the widths of the cross section. So it's following our three-dimensional path. We want to do our 3D, following the 3D line. So that's going to be our profile. And start and end, 37 feet. And then we say interval, a 5-foot interval. It's going to create 8 sections. And then if we want to do a fixed width, we can assign that left and right. So now we have the path, and we can apply that. And then we say the thickness, where we want to look at the thickness and the tolerance of the line. We hit preview. And now we have a tool that pops up. So we're looking at the cross section. So there's so cross sections from the point cloud have been generated. And then we can look at cross section 1, and then we can use the tool here is going to different cross sections. We can look at the elevation of the point cloud information profile. So we can look at the profile where we started, up and over and down the island, up and over the little delineator and down. So that's functionality here too. You'll see these values in other tools as well. And then in this case, now we'll jump into another tool called 2D Easy Line. So we thickness, then we can go in here, and then we can actually modify. So there's the point cloud, and then we go into the 2D drawing line tool. And where is, okay, cancel. Oh, there it is. There we go. All right, so there's the point cloud, and there is the automated line that was created from the tool. So now there's your cross-section line. And then if we can go in here with the 2D drawing tool, we can edit the line string. So we can kind of smooth out these a little bit if we needed to. And we can smooth that out. So there's just another demonstration of using the 2D line tool, and we fixed that. And then we can simplify. And then if you simplify the line work, you can change it drastically. And we can just undo that. And then we can smooth out the line a little bit, apply, and then we'll create and close. And now what we have is we have our line work, we have our cross sections and profile. Oops. Of the island. Scale white. There we have that. And then we have that. Tweak. Okay. And there we have, and now we have the line work. And now we can actually take these cross sections, and then we could export that out. Export selections, and then now we can go out to AutoCAD, a DXF, DWG, for whatever we need to work with. Okay, so that is the profile cross-section and profile tool, and we have about 5 minutes to go. And I'm going to switch back, and then we'll just kind of stop sharing, share to the PowerPoint, and then back here. And then we'll just kind of just go through. I put some screen captures in here just to cover. So the next tool, surfaces and volumes. So in that case, we take the pile, sample it, segment it out, sample it down, create the mesh, create contours, create volumes, and then you get a volume report. And that's, you know, the very simple steps for that, for the mesh creation. But we can then take the contours, export those out, and you can have a three-dimensional representation in other softwares as well. The next one, this is publish project. So this is how we share data. So in RealWorks, there's an option called publish project, which uses another tool within RealWorks called Scan Explorer. So the publish project, so whatever data you have, you open that up, and then you have a page configuration, and you can put your logo, project image, assign media links. So that would be a picture. The other one is actually a web link where you can click on it. And once you publish your project, you get a folder called dependencies and the Trimble Scan Explorer Viewer.exe. So then you can ship that off to your client or whoever, and they actually double click on that exe, and this what opens up is they get the project title, all that information, and then there will be an explore project. And then once you click on that, actually, so this is what the publish project looked like. We set it up. So we put the little main event there for the logo, a little title, and then we have links to the substation. That click on that, that gives you a little map to where it's located, and then we can assign a bunch of images. So you send that to your client, and then they just double click on scanexplore.exe. This opens up, and then on the right you'll see what project it is, that information you click on, and there'll be an explore project. You open that up, and now in the settings, in the configuration, you've enabled extraction. So now your client, if you want, they can extract points and then extract those out and actually bring that into RealWorks. But Scan Explorer, this is another option where your client sees, can scan around, take measurements, and you share information. And then we're going to have a demonstration, follow that with a floor inspection. Floor inspection is just a pretty straightforward one. You define an area, you enter your grid origin, or you enter that puts it at the lower left corner of the grid. You give it the reference elevation, and then you generate the inspection, and that actually develops a little cut fill map and then other files related to that. Next one is floor flatness and floor levelness analysis. We have this already on a YouTube video, so I was going to show that video. And then we move into modeling. So in the modeling options, you have cloud-based modeling or geometry creator, so you manually create it. Then we have just here's a little example of a wall segmentation out. Use the cloud-based modeler, and that creates and then you extract, click on it, and then it fits a plane to it. Use the plane bounding tool to align the plane so you can shrink that plane to where the point cloud is. Other ones is the EasyPipe. You select your point cloud, you extract, and then it goes through, and if you have a good cloud, it'll do a pretty good job, and then you model it as seen on the right. And then just here's an example of just building walls, a floor, a pipe, and a box going into that. And then the last one is exporting. So there's the production export, the export selection. There's all the formats that can be exported out. And then in the registration mode, this is where the gridded export resides. So you select your objects, convert to TZF. TZF scans are selected station. Then you have your output file selection of E57, PTX, PTS, or RCP. And then that exports out your data. And there we have it. Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I don't see any questions that have come in through your presentation there, and you covered a ton of stuff.
It's so
big. Yeah, everything from georeferencing to RealWorks registrations to the target analyzer tool, mesh creations, modeling. That was actually a great training in RealWorks. A bunch of stuff that I was unfamiliar with, and so that was great information.